Along with many other Mgtow men, I think that a Mgtow approach is different than the traditional bachelor approach. I will look at this traditional bachelor approach and on this basis question the motivation of why some unmarried men attack Mgtow. Generally in the past, a man was a bachelor for reasons revolving around two things. One, he was a solitary type man who knew that he would not do well living with other people, either men or women. I will call this the odd couple attitude after the play and TV show. The second one is that other men viewed that the purpose of marriage is to raise a family, and some of those men feel deeply that, although raising a family is a valuable pursuit, they would just not be cut out to be a father, for whatever reason. I will call this the kids freak me out attitude. These types of men exist today in probably the same percentage as they always have, and their judgment should be respected. These men are not Mgtow or Mgtow by default. They are traditional bachelors. The reason for the vast majority of men to become Mgtow is that the danger of getting into a relationship with a woman or attempting to raise a family with a woman far outweighs the expected benefits. In short, there is no net value to the risk involved due to the ability of a woman to speak with one sentence and have the man thrown into jail and or his kids, home, assets, and income taken from him. In addition, due to the entitlement attitude that is described via unfettered and rampant gynocentrism and hypergamy, any lasting relationship with a Western woman is very likely to result in bad outcomes, including rape allegations, pregnancy entrapment, low-cost benefit returns, and verbally demeaning abuse. These situations have led many men towards the Mgtow path of controlling their biological urges and finding other avenues of valuable pursuits which are not subject to such high risk and low net value. Here we question why an unmarried man would be hostile to Mgtow. If the man is a confirmed traditional bachelor type, what possible difference does it make to him how another man chooses to live? None that I can fathom. Bachelor types are also aware of the pressures to conform, and one would think that they would not be likely to criticize non-standard relationship choices of other men. Thus I believe that we can conclude that most or all of the unmarried men who are anti-Mgtow are not of the traditional bachelor type. Thus it appears as though there are two main choices for why an unmarried man would be hostile to Mgtow. First is that he's a traditionally directed man who is perhaps dating women in order to either find a soulmate and not raise a family, or find a soulmate in order to raise a family. In either case, the unveiling of the dangers and of women's entitlement attitude is information that he either does not want to hear or does not wish to believe is true. If he thinks this information is wrong, he would probably just ignore it and think nothing more about it. So it appears as though men venting anger against Mgtow are men who do not wish to believe the information is true, but deep down know it to be true. In making unmarried man anti-Mgtow videos, this type of man is building a defensive wall against knowledge he does not want to believe, but he has heard and processed and reluctantly sees truth in. Thus, the violent language is a building of courage to strengthen belief in his previous position that relationships with women leading or not leading to marriage and family are still true. Or, if watching enough Mgtow content, that the previous position, while untrue, must still be defended. This is a cognitive dissonance as to the truth of the information. The second choice is that the unmarried anti-Mgtow man believes the truth of the information, but does not wish himself to accept that it is rational to become Mgtow. Thus he lashes out at Mgtow, trying to drive a wedge between himself and who he rationally must become. This is akin to the bird wishing to fly back into the cage after being freed. This choice involves a repugnance at the very state of the world which has made men so unvalued, and this unmarried anti-Mgtow man is so let down at the realization of the sad state of affairs that he is blaming the messenger. This is cognitive dissonance as to the truth of the world and a man's place within it. For unmarried men in both these situations, as well as for married men in the West generally, the hypersexualized environment in the media, on the streets, and within social narratives has so inundated men's minds with sexual content and stimulation that the mere imagining of not thinking about sex every 6 seconds seems unnatural. For those who have traveled to countries where such hypersexualization is not the case, the stark difference may not even be noticed. I personally did not. But awareness that men are being fed sexualized images on a constant basis, which drives men to chase sexual activity at every opportunity, is a tool of control, a critical support in creating both types of cognitive dissonance. This issue was highlighted artistically in my Power of Thirst video. How unmarried men who are anti-Mgtow will eventually deal with the information and what this information implies about the world they live in, and thus how they should rationally act, is yet to be seen. Some will remain hostile, and some will admit their own experience facts and still remain hostile, or may move to a neutral or positive position towards Mgtow over time. In all likelihood, those who remain vehemently anti-Mgtow will suffer the same fates in the same percentages as unaware blue pill men. On the other hand, it is perhaps the high road to view these men as severely under the spell of the system and to have compassion for them. But on the other hand, their violent emotional reaction may best be met with an equally firm but consistently reasoned pushback. Ultimately, why do married men even bother? Just forget about Mgtow if you don't like it. Get married, roll the dice, and Mgtow will see about half of you within the next 10 to 15 years or so. Broke, sad, angry, and lost.